The Fabs. And she's got a ticket to ride. Don't forget Kent's Best here at 5 o'clock. In the next hour, Anthony Wade, DrVoice, with his music choice, talking about his career as well. It's my great pleasure to welcome to the studio DrVoice, Anthony Wade. Hello, Hi. Anthony.
How you doing, Dave?
Now, you don't look old enough for this, but I quote from the article because it's a good way to start. It says, on the evening of January the 12th, 1963, young Anthony Wade experienced a life-changing moment at the Invicta Ballroom in Chatham. His father, Ray, a local music promoter, had let the 10-year-old watch a band he'd got them to perform on stage. That was the Beatles. And he says, I looked through the hole and would see the crowd going wild, and the noise knocked me over. All these girls screaming. I've never experienced anything like that before or since. And that's what gave you the bug, was it?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I saw the Beatles playing live, I mean, one of the things that astonished me was when they turned up with all their hair and everything, and my father was standing there, because he was like Sergeant Major, my father. Really? Big moustache, and he'd stand there. Right. And they turn up, and Paul McCartney said, it's hello, Wack, you look like Jimmy Edwards. He said, never mind bloody Jimmy Edwards, get in there. You're late. And he told him off, you know, and I'll never forget watching it. And then I helped Ringo put his drums up and inside. And John Lennon lost his guitar. And I had to run out with a guy called Mick Williams. We went looking for his guitar. Mick passed away now, unfortunately, but a local hairdresser. And we went off and we got the guitar back and brought it back to John Lennon, fortunately. So he was able to play that night.
So, I mean, 1963, they were just getting big then, weren't they? Because, they wouldn't have done the Invicta Ballroom Chatham later on.
From Me to You was in the charts. I remember my father meeting Brian Epstein, talking to him about it, and it was great times at those times. I met Jerry Lee Lewis, you know, you see him there with his hair smoothed back, and he's standing out. I'll never forget my dad saying, how much do we owe you, Jerry? He says, £350, Ray. And he went, what? £350? You know, it was cost a fortune in those days.
A lot of money then,
yeah. Those days, yeah. And really lost money that evening, apparently. So, Bill Haley, lots of people, Freddie and the Dreamers, Jerry and the Pacemakers, I saw them all going through there. And it was my uncle, Ronnie Verrill. He's not my real uncle, but I always call him Uncle Ronnie Verrill. He was a very close friend of my father's, who's in the Ted Heath Orchestra, which is one of the tracks.
Next one we're going to play.
Yeah. And that's Ronnie playing on there. He's passed away. He was on the Frank Skinner playing drums on, and he was the Muppet drummer.
No.
Yeah, he was the one.
He was Animal.
Yes, he was the Animal. And he took, I remember going along seeing Tom Jones do It's Not Unusual as a little boy, and seeing all the various different acts, you know, Matthew and Son, Cat Stevens, where Ronnie would play drums for him, and he'd invite me along, and I was only about 12 then, and I'd look at watching them record, you know, and it was what fascinated me about music, and fascinated me about the voice as well. You know, people, my brother, Mike, who's a great singer, a natural singer, he was in Jesus Christ Superstar, hair went round the world. I could never understand, why can he sing and I can't? What is it that he's got that's natural, and then what I've got is not natural? And that's when I realised, I started to work on my voice for many years, that I can actually take people that do not have a talent for singing and give them the talent of a person who's got the talent to sing. That's my gift to people. So
I bet he couldn't do it with me.
Oh yeah, we can try a few things if you want. If you're up for it.
Oh, I'm up for anything, mate. You don't know how much your dad paid the Beatles, do you, for that gig?
I think it was 15 quid.
No.
Yeah.
And made a huge profit, I should think, if they were in the charts.
Yeah,
like that.
well, From Me to You was just in the charts, and as I say in that article, what blew me away was the actual energy coming through the little hole in the back of that stage. The energy of those girls. My hair went up at the back, and I turned around and looked at my dad. He says, have you ever seen anything like that, son? I said, no, that's awesome. And I haven't seen anything like that since in any concert I've been to, and I've been to thousands of them.
Presumably he would have booked people like the Stones.
Yes,
like
Rolling Stones were there. I got Charlie Watts drumsticks. I had Ringo's drumsticks for a while. I don't know what happened to those. I lost them.
They were worth a few quid.
They would have been, but they went when I was much younger.
Oh dear.
Somewhere, because I emigrated to Australia and it all got lost in the the rooms.
We started with this masquerade from George Benson. Why particularly George Benson?
George Benson, well, what a voice. One. Two, what an amazing guitarist. I love guitar playing. You know, I'm a accomplished jazz pianist myself, but I do love jazz. And one of the big things that I loved about George Benson was his ability to emulate his voice. His scatting. do-do-do, like a guitar. That's awesome. And he was one of the first male, if you like, because Ella Fitzgerald used to do it, as you know. She imitated what we call a saxophone.
Yeah.
Whereas, obviously, this man did it with his guitar. And Wes Montgomery was the one that did that for a while, but not so much as what George did. And the hit songs he had in that time, it just brings back some lovely memories. Masquerade.
Well, let's listen to your uncle on Ted Heath. There it is, with his uncle featured there, and that's Begin the Begin. It's me, Roger Day, with DrVoice in the studio, and where'd you get the Dr. Voice? That was just a nickname, I guess.
Well,
Who came up with it?
No, it's one of the things I've realised I was doing over the years. I was diagnosing people's voices. I'm able to hear a voice speak or sing and tell you exactly, well, whether you can sing or not, 1, 2, how long it's going to take you to get to where you want to in your singing. The other thing is I work with people's voices in terms of speech as well, because your voice is the soundtrack to your life. It's the echo of who you really are.
Sure.
So, in effect, most people, even you, have actually chosen your voice unconsciously. We don't think about our voices. Obviously, you do more because you're a radio presenter and done it for many years, so you're very aware of the tonality and the pitch, the change up and down. But most people talk like Johnny one note and have that, like the chap doing talking about the thing just a minute ago. He's on one monotone, and lots of people. It's not his fault. Everybody's like this. That don't know that they can change their voice consciously.
Sure.
You can change your voice, and by changing your voice, and this is my claim, you change your life.
No, I agree. I do agree with you, because I mean, it's like teenagers, exactly. mumble. You know, I mean, when I used to be in the power of interview people, you listen to, if somebody comes in and you can understand what they're saying, they're bright. Oh, I like him. You know, that's the impression, isn't it?
Look, I don't think Jesus stood on the rock 2,000 years ago and 500 people said, Kingdom of Heaven's inside, God's inside you. I don't think so. I think he would have been saying, there is a beauty, there is a love. He would have had presence and power as the man, I have a dream.
Martin Luther King.
Yes, and as Hitler, who changed a nation, not for the good, mind you, but he's gone down in history as a legend, because that voice had the power to change and envelope people into a mesmerisation. Who sells the most products in America more than anything is the star-like qualities in voices. James L. Jones, Darth Vader, sells all the major mobile phones over there, because he's accrued a depth and a quality in his sound, and people like to hear that. They like to feel that. So most people don't feel when they speak. Most people talk from the top of their head, straight out their mouth, and that's why sometimes we get into trouble, and that's why we don't get our point across so effectively as we can. But if we use the voice with all its amazing dexterity, you've got 64 muscles in your larynx, and most of us are using between 12 and 20. You're using a lot more being a DJ, of course. But
hope so.
We don't use the power of what we have. And so that's like, imagine all these people walking around, right, and they all had one arm down, and you were doing your hair with your two arms, eating with your two arms, everywhere you went, you'd feel natural, wouldn't you?
Sure.
And you'd look at everybody out the window and say, hang on, they're all not using their arm. So you'd go up, excuse me, you're not using your arm, and they get embarrassed by that fact. It's the same with the voice. People are not utilising their voice to its full potential, so they think that's them. They think that's who they are. It's not.
And of course, as politicians now, whereas before they just used to let them get on with it, I think Maggie Thatcher started it, where she started taking voice training lessons to make her sound more commanding. Yes. And it worked, didn't it work?
Yes, she went into a chest voice. She was, and I think today, I was on Radio 5 Live talking about this. And you see, what we've done, Roger, we've developed a nation of mumblers. I had two guys talking in my studio the other day. Later. I thought, what planet am I on?
It's like conversations on buses, isn't it?
Yes. I didn't know what the hell they were saying. And because we're getting lazy.
Yeah.
We're getting lazy with our expression and with our communication, with text, the advent of internet. Everybody's getting married on emails and never met each other. What's going on? We're distancing ourselves from each other. And the voice is one of the major parts of our body, which is the most powerful communication systems